Hello, Dr. Eben. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Hello,
Yes, I
Doctor.
can hear.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, great, great. Mm. And thanks so much for become a contributor and a speaker for our webinar.
Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
You are welcome. Let's wait till Dr. Sarike will join. Shall we check whether it is possible to share your presentation? I am going to make you a co-host.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see if that
Then,
works.
yeah. Then we can check your screen share. Yes, I think that now you can try.
Let's see. Can you see it?
Yeah, great. Then
Okay, so
yeah, I can see
um,
that. Only
this
thing
one
is that you can go to the slides show move mode.
like
Ah,
that.
okay, excellent, excellent. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. That works.
Then it seems that there are a large number of your friends, colleagues, and the people who love to hear you from South Africa.
Yeah, I saw when I saw
It's
the
great.
email with all the emails there, some names I recognize. I'm glad for that. It's good to see.
Yeah. That unfortunately we can't take them at the moment. That we need to check the Dr. Sarike's screen share screen
Hmm.
as well. That she's not still there. She may come very soon.
Yeah, I think you said 10 minutes, so I think I'm always a bit early, so.
Hmm.
How long have you been doing this webinar?
Yeah. That first, I will introduce both of you. Then that I haven't really decided who is speaking first, but that the I introduce you first. Then I thought because that we have some kind of a norm that ladies first. Ne? Then if you don't mind, I can invite her first.
Nope.
That is the only thing that I don't have other option. Other thing is not
Okay.
there.
No problem from my side.
Okay, thank you. Wait a minute. I will check my WhatsApp whether there may be message from her sometimes.
Yeah, I can maybe just check there.
Yeah.
I just saw something from somebody that let me know they were trying to sign in onto Zoom now. They say it's
Yeah.
scheduled for PM and not AM for 10:30.
Yeah. That. Yeah. No. Now that it can be used. There is no issue. You can join with the same link.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'll let them know.
That is the actual case is actually the same account is used by that number of peoples that you know that Sri Lanka is not a developed country. Sri Lanka is a developing country. That sorry for that. That's why some certain things may change, but the no issue. You can use the same link and join.
Okay, I'll just tell them.
Well, I will take one of my students that she will handle certain things. That's why I'm taking her. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Hello, Dr. Sarike. Can you hear me?
Hi, good morning. Good
Okay.
morning.
Good
I can
morning.
hear
Good
you.
afternoon from Sri Lanka. Do you know each
Hi.
other previously?
No,
No.
no. Hold on, let me
Oh,
just,
that is
can
great
you
to
see
know
me
each
now?
other. That two
Yeah, you do see.
experts on the same field in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
contribute in future as well. Okay, that Dr. Sarke, I am going to make you a co-host. Then
Okay.
we can check your screen sharing option.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you should be a co-host. Yes, now you are co-host. You are co-host. Shall we check your screen sharing option?
Yeah. Do we just try it now? Is that the idea?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Is it working?
Yes.
Do
Yes,
you see this
yeah, we can see.
one? Okay.
We can see. Yes.
So if I stop sharing, I just go back to Zoom and I say stop sharing, yeah?
Yeah. You can do next time as well. No issue.
There you go.
Shall we take our audience members? Some of your friends are waiting long period of time. That is so sorry about that, Dr. Proof. Let's take them. No issue. Shall we take them now?
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. Okay, shall we start? Shall we start, Dr. Sarike and Dr. Eben?
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, great. Ivan, uh, may you live long. Very good afternoon from Sri Lanka. You are warmly welcome to the 10th version of the UCR Global Leisure webinar series. Today, our topic is dark events and dark tourism. We have invited two global experts to share their expertise with us. We have invited Dr. Eben Proos from South Africa, and also we invited Dr. Sarike van Slooten from Netherlands. Dr. Eben is a senior lecturer, Department of Tourism and Event Management, Central University of Technology, Free State, South Africa. Dr. Sarike van Slooten works as a lecturer of NHL's Stenden University of Applied Sciences, and she is also a researcher at the European Tourism Future Institute. At first, I would like to invite Dr. Sarike to deliver her speech.
Thank you so much, Amila, for this opportunity and for the invite. I am going to share my screen now with everyone.
Yeah.
Hopefully that works. Please let me know.
Yes.
Can you see the slides?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is great. Yeah.
All right.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you again. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarike van Slooten. I am a lecturer at the Academy of Leisure and Tourism at NHL Stenden University of Applied Sciences, which is up in the north of Holland. And I'm also a researcher at the ETFI Foundation, which is the European Tourism Futures Institute. It's a long name, where we do research on tourism-related futures. In both my lectures and my research, they are connected to heritage and especially dark tourism, and also the role of identity within memory and heritage management creation. I also have a strong focus there on multi-perspectivity and on the visitor experience, which is a bit of the niche I'm into. I've been asked today to focus on the presentation, to focus on some trends and developments in the field of dark tourism as how I see them. So that is actually my plan for the coming 20 minutes. I understood that the audience today is a bit mixed. So what I would like to do is I briefly bring you a bit into what dark tourism means for me, and anyway, as an academic trend, but also as an activity. And then I'd like to share a bit with you of the trends that I've spotted that we see back in literature, but also in the world on dark events and trends. To start off with, below you can see some two pictures which are very accurate. It's within the European geography. It's two wars that are happening now in Ukraine and in Gaza. And I have the idea that this is going to become one of the most popular dark sites to visit in the coming weeks, months, years to come. So let me take you through some examples first. What you see here on the slide are 4 sites of attractions and dark attractions and sites in different parts of the world. The top left is Ground Zero, what once was a site of destruction and death, actually, in 2001, has now evolved into a sort of top-notch commemoration center in the US that attracts people from all over the world to pay their respect, but also to experience the authenticity of the site, really. The same goes for the top right picture, which is the entrance of death camp Auschwitz in Poland, where millions of Jews and Gypsies and Sinti people were taken in the Second World War. Or closer maybe to your environment in Colombo is the bottom left picture that showcases the killing fields of Cambodia, a site of genocide where visitors go for contemplation reasons, but also for education and to learn about what happened there, really, but also to see with their own eyes what people have endured. Or if you go to the bottom right picture, which is an advert in London of the Jack the Ripper tour, where visitors can learn and get a thrill of true story marking death and killing, but then mostly for entertainment purposes. So all of these sites share something in common. What once was a site of trauma and pain has now become a tourist destination to visit, where stories and experiences of death have been packaged and commodified to attract visitors all over the world and cater for their needs. So any story of death really carries the potential to become a very, very popular tourist destination. All it sort of needs is the right packaging, the right planning, and the right management, and visitors will come and experience and maybe also enjoy the site. Another example of that is what you see here on the slide, which is the catacombs of Paris, which is one example, 2 pictures, which is an underground network of tunnels that stores the remains of millions of people from Paris. If you want to enter, you buy a ticket of €31, which is the equivalent for you, I think, 10,500 Sri Lankan rupees, to get you in and to hear everything about the darker past of Paris in the 18th and 19th century, but also with the sort of gruesome touch to it. But this is what you actually see. I'm not sure if any of you have been there, but this is what you actually see when you buy a ticket. Crowds lining up to enter the site to have this sort of unique dark experience, one of the highlights of Paris for some. But looking at the actual experience, I just took 2 of them, 2 reviews from TripAdvisor from a few years ago on how people actually experienced it. And you see that it's very different too. Some really seek to appreciate, because they appreciate the thrill of it, of death, of suffering. It's far away from them. But others also thought it was so sobering. But in any case, in both of the experience, it was unique and it was educational, which is something that you see coming back in any dark tourist site experience from people. It is unique and it is emotional and it is something that they learn from. But then what is dark tourism? So before the authors, so within the academic debate, excuse me, before the authors Lennon and Coley coined this framework, so dark tourism in 1996, which is not that long ago, which is the book cover that you see here on the left, this form of traveling was already been referred to black spot tourism or to Thana tourism, all of them indicating, excuse me, a tourist activity to historical sites and ancient sites or attractions that are connected to pain, to death, atrocity, and to trauma, which continue to impact our lives. So it's not just any site or any story of death. It actually says, it implies that it's one that really matters, whatever that means. So as an academic concept, dark tourism could be sort of considered as a very modern concept. 1996 is not really that long ago. But as an activity, it might actually go back way further, hundreds of years, when, for example, the people went to markets to see public executions, and they would travel from afar to see it firsthand. But because dark tourism reached its prominence in the end of the 20th century, more and more places were declared or dubbed as being dark sites. And this boost could maybe be attributed to the contemporary Western fascination of death, just as Stone and Sharpley say that in their books. But also whether it's media induced or not, or whether it's fictional or real, it doesn't really matter. It could also be due to the secularization here in the Western world. It can also be due to mass tourism, globalization, and the increasing role of media as well. So in 2009, the book on the right here, The Darker Side of Travel, is written by Stone and Sharpley, boosted this eminence even more. And now it's sort of said as any dark tourism activity, regardless of its shade of darkness, is connected to commemoration, entertainment, education, and has to be an emotional experience, or is an emotional experience. But why then we choose to preserve a past that is so traumatized, that's so painful, and why do we then also choose to go there and travel? Well, travel to sites of historical trauma, such as battlefields or camps, is not just about commemorating the past. It serves more reasons, and it serves more motivations that are really important to us as visitors. For example, the memorialization and identity formation is really important. Visiting such places helps shape both personal and collective identities. For example, the Holocaust memorial, like Auschwitz, would also, allow the descendants of the people who have been suffering or who have been killed to mourn, to reflect values such as justice or human rights. Also, tourism and leisure reasons, so economic purposes, because they do serve local economies. Think of the Hiroshima Peace Memorial in Japan, for instance, that attracts millions of visitors and also generates a lot of income. Also, placemaking and community making is another one. So these sites often become spaces of shared memory and shared dialogue. For example, again, the 9/11 memorial in New York fosters a sense of unity, but also really about resilience of, among visitors and locals alike. Sense of rootedness and belonging is another one. So for many people, visiting ancestral sites which are culturally important, such as Robben Island in South Africa, offers a personal connection to heritage and a deeper meaning of one's place and story and history. Education, entertainment, and experience is another one, which is connected to the contemporary visitor experience. So modern visitors like us really seek to be immersed. They seek for meaningful experiences. Museums like the Anne Frank House use interactive storytelling to engage and educate across generations. People don't just learn or seek to learn through text anymore. They would like to feel, they'd like to partake in that experience, and dark sites really serve that need. And final one is their inclusiveness. So in a diverse world that we live today, these sites can actually promote empathy and inclusiveness by acknowledging more voices than one in the reflection of the story or the event that happened, really. But yeah, some would even say that it's not really a choice of us. It's just a matter of duty. We have to go. We have to remember those who have fallen, because we have to speak in their names so that it cannot happen again. So this way you can see that dark tourism activities contribute what I think is, what I call really as drivers of current day society. So really about acknowledgement and about empowerment, accountability, peace, and to create mutual respect amongst communities and peoples. But then how does it work? How does a site of trauma becomes a site of visitation? Well, I base that on Stone and Grabner's model that they created in 2022. Which helps us to sort of grasp how places of where those traumatic events happened, like an attack, like a terrorist attack, or a disaster, a war, can turn into visitation over time. So it goes through steps in the process. So it has to start with an atrocity, right? So something horrible happened that shocks society, like an attack, what I just mentioned. And this creates then a place filled with strong emotions, but also painful memories. And then at some point, people begin to visit. So after the event, people come to these places to grieve, to commemorate, or to learn about what happened. And this is what we call dark tourism, the activity of visiting those places connected to death and trauma. And then two things happen at the same time. So then you've got commemoration and you've got commercialization. So some people and organizations focus on respectful commemoration through memories, memorials, ceremonies, and storytelling of what happened. And at the same time, businesses may well use that story to sell souvenirs or to offer tours. Sometimes this can be seen as inappropriate, but it might also be helpful. This is a bit of a fine line of ethics that I won't talk about today because of the sake of time, but it is important to keep in mind. And then at some point after that, the further sort of step in that process, that symbols and icons become important too for placemaking. So certain images or objects become to present the event, really. And these symbols are often sold and help to give a place a lasting identity. I have an example for this as well. You might have heard of the bombings in 2017 in Manchester in the UK, at the Manchester Arena, during or after the pop idol Ariana Grande played. 23 people were killed there. And in the aftermath of that event, the Manchester Working Bee, which you might have heard of, I'm not sure, which was already a long-standing emblem of the city's industrial spirit, but that sort of emerged or re-emerged maybe emerged as a powerful symbol and icon of unity and of resilience of the people from that city. Originally, this was adopted to present Manchester's working character and collective strength, but the bee took now on a sort of renewed meaning and importance as a tribute to those who have fallen or who were killed in that event, but also as a reflection of that city's solidarity in the face of that trauma, which is now 8 years ago. Then after that iconism, those places gain sort of a deeper meaning. So over time, as more people visit and talk about it, it sort of share their experiences. The site becomes more than just a site to visit or more than just a location. It becomes a place of cultural and emotional value for a lot of people. And that also marks the final stage of this process for a lot of people. Not everyone agrees on what a place means. For some, it might be a place of grief, and for others, it might be a tourist attraction to enjoy. So these mixed meanings really add value to the inclusiveness that I was talking about earlier. But it also adds as a sort of source, can be a source of tension really between meanings and between visitors. So how does it work then? How can traumascapes alter into those tourist destinations created through commemoration and commercialization? What is now coming, the few slides that are coming now are examples of the trends that I've spotted in both literature as well as in activity. And I'd like to take you through them with me. It's just a few examples. And I have the feeling that those trends might be the foundation for another traumascape that change into a tourist destination. And you might actually argue that some are there already. I'm sure it's not completely new to you, and if it is, then let me just explain it briefly. But we now have some sort of more niche tourisms types, which we call roots tourism and slavery tourism, which is connected to the darker past of slavery, enslavement, slave trade, and colonialism. What you see here is that many more sites opening up as tourist destinations for the wider public. This is it's not only in Western Africa; it's also in the North Americas. It's also in South Africa. It's even in Asia. You see that many places that were once seen as from one side of the coin, one side of the story, are now also including stories of slavery and enslavement in there. So it sort of turns into, I don't really want to say a darker. Well, obviously it is a dark history, but it is actually multivocal now. But what you see is that many more people also are interested to go and travel to see what their ancestors have endured. It's for identity formation, to know where they're from. And what you also see is what you see on the pictures here, but also the mapping slavery, which is something in Europe, I think, anyway, is quite hot. That cities are opening up city tours, whereas back in the past you would learn about architecture, about the aesthetics of the city, uses of a city, but now you also see silenced parts of that city connected to this colonial history. There's also a trend that we call current dark tourism, which implies that stories of trauma don't have to happen in the past anymore. They happen, people visit not after a trauma has been processed. People actually visit now while it's happening. And this brings a lot of questions when it comes to ethics and, for example, safety, but also promotion. Is it all right to package those sites as visitor attractions? Is it safe for people to go? Is it needed to go to experience sites, whereas other people are really in agony by what's happening? So you see here two pictures in Syria, one in Syria and one in Afghanistan taken, of people visiting those places where the actual bombings take place, or the collapse of buildings, or people fighting for their life on one side, really, and others looking at it with their phone. The picture that you see on the top right, her name is Anna. She's 24 and she's a student in Kiev. And I've been approached by a Dutch travel program 2 months ago to give an interview about the trend or the phenomena that we call dark tourism, to talk about what it actually means and what it is, because they are approached by many of people like Anna, who feel the need to, while the war is happening, to still create tours and get people on their tour to showcase what is happening to their hometowns. So it's also a form of current dark tourism. You can wonder whether it's safe. There's all kinds of questions attached to this, but it is happening. But this sort of showcases that it doesn't have to be happening in the past anymore. It can actually happen as we are living through it, or some are living through it. There's another trend that I see, and that's really focused on the lighter parts of dark tourism, which is the entertainment and the thrill of it. It's not per se connected to death as such, so not to people in specific, or specific characters from the past, or names, or whatever. It's more about the thrill of experiencing death, or something that you cannot really touch or feel, but then you get the spooks type of thing. It's most of the time it's not really the main motivator for people to travel, but it sort of is there when they're traveling. They see it and they think, oh, it's nice thing to do for fun, really. There is a sense of information in there as well. You learn, for example, if you go to dungeons, you will learn about what they've used in the past when it comes to torture. And if that's what you're interested in, then you want to go to these places. But then they really focus on the thrill of it, on having a really good time and experience. It's even now, there's even maps now that say, have you already been to one of these dark places? Otherwise, so they even work on the FOMO, so the fear of missing out. Oh, you have to go to these ones because, and otherwise you don't belong, type of thing. So it's really entertainment. It's really entertainment and thrill, really. Legacy of communism is something that so dark tourism related to communism is something that I really see back in literature. Many more scholars over the past 5-6 years or something use case studies where they connect dark tourism related theory to communist sites. These are just two, so you get, for example, Russia and China are the most common ones. Where people go to the mausoleum, for example, to pay their respect, or just to see, so it's something that I don't know much about when it comes to the activity, but it's something that I spotted really in academic branding and academic literature, that it's just striking how many more people are now focusing on that type of dark tourism. You also have performing arts dark tourism trends, really. It's not really compound to a building or something. It's not really a site or an attraction as such. It's more of an activity. I'm not sure if you recognize the right picture. That's Body Worlds, which is dark in a different way. It's something that we get exposed to that you don't really get exposed to easily. It's also about taboo breaking. So it's not the type of dark that that we talk about when you talk about dark tourism. But obviously that person is not alive anymore. So anyway, you can argue for that. But performing arts as well, also in connection to colonialism, a lot of initiatives taken by artists to symbolize feelings, emotions connected to a darker past, and they express that in their paintings or in their live theater spectacles, music, rituals, etc., that you can go to, buy a ticket for, and witness and see and experience. Another one is dark tourism photography. So this is more about, not per se about the site itself that has undergone or endured a very dark past. Often they are, from what I've seen, but it doesn't have to be. It can also just be a very dark photograph, obviously for the aesthetics, but it gives it a very dark feeling of geniusness as well as being a photographer. But they do travel to these places to take pictures. So it is a form of dark tourism that might not be the conventional one that I just mentioned, but people do travel to places to take pictures, whether it's dark or not. And that's a form of expression as well, of identity. Another one is the social media and dark tourism. This is just dark tourism is getting, anyway, within the part of the world that I live in, I keep on seeing it pops up way more often in films, in series, in books, in social media. That's more and more people, which show to me that more and more people are aware of what used to be a sort of only academic brand has now become a widely known and maybe embraced activity of people when they visit. They take selfies of their of the dark sides. They actually go to see where people have been murdered, for example, which is quite of a strange idea if you think about it. But they do, and you see it back, and it's Instagrammable as well. So you see it back on their social media, and they talk about it. So that's a sort of another tendency that I've spotted in relation to dark tourism. Yeah, and what you see here on this picture, this is a picture generated by AI, and I asked him or her, whatever, to create a picture of a next dark tourism site based on these ingredients, because these ingredients that you see, all these sort of trends that you see, are trends that I think are shaping a next dark tourism destination. And how that will look like, and how long that will take, and where that will be, I don't know, but I think it's just a matter of time. That we'll see what happens and how it evolves. Thank you. That was it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarike, for your insightful presentation that you discuss and covers the different aspects and the perfect scope of dark tourism. And you touched that the new concepts and the potential future of dark tourism as well. Then I would like to invite Dr. Eben to deliver his speech.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to check, can you see the slides on
Yeah,
your side? Okay,
yeah, we
thank you.
can see that. Shall we go to the slide show
Slideshow. Yeah,
mod? Yeah.
how's that?
Yeah. Great.
Okay, good. How's that?
Yeah, excellent.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the invite today to talk a little bit about this interesting topic, dark tourism. My name is Dr. Eben Proos. I am a senior lecturer at the Central University of Technology, Free State, situated in the heart of South Africa, in Bloemfontein. So as you can see, I dressed the part today with my dark clothes that I'm wearing to fit in with, with the topic of our webinar today. So I decided to go with the topic of dark tourism, a perspective from the South African War, 1899 to 1902. So that is what I will be focusing on today throughout my presentation. If we have a look at my layout, what we're going to do in the next 20 minutes, we're going to have a short look at what is dark tourism, some of the motivations. We're going to look, as the previous speaker also highlighted, some of the international dark tourism examples, but I'm more going to focus on dark tourism war examples. Then we're going to focus on the South African War, look at some of the attractions from the South African War that we find, which is currently dark tourism attractions here in South Africa. Then we're going to look at some links with international dark tourism sites. And then at the end, looking towards the future, I like to ask the question always, is there light at the end for dark tourism? I think it's an important question we need to ask to see where are we heading with this topic of dark tourism. So this is the definition of dark tourism from Talo, which was coined in 2005, which I usually refer to and enjoy to use in my field of research, which you'll see is a little bit more focused on battlefields and war and niche tourism specifically. So the definition reads as follows: dark tourism is visitations to places where tragedies or historically noteworthy death has occurred and that continue to impact our lives. So I've highlighted and read some of the key important words that stand out from this definition for me is, of course, tragedies, historically noteworthy death, so death that took place or that occurred that is historically noteworthy. And very important for me, I think that we need specifically looking towards the future is that it still continues to impact our lives today. So what does it include? What does dark tourism include? Specifically, which I'm looking at is, of course, visitations to battlefields, graveyards, internment sites, memorial sites, and so forth. So those are the ones that we'll specifically be looking at today in my presentation from a war perspective on dark tourism. So why do people go and visit dark tourism sites? Specifically, war dark tourism sites. This is in research that I conducted in 2020, so recent research, where I looked at what are some of the motivations for people to visit these dark tourism war sites. And I highlighted 5 of the most noteworthy motivations that popped up. And I think the previous speaker also highlighted to some of them. The first one is that it serves as a form of motivation to go there to get educated, specifically on why did certain things happen. When did it happen? Why did it lead to what the impact is today? What was the impact today still? So education, that's why a lot of people are motivated to visit these war sites. Acts of remembrance, going to these sites, remembering people that have fallen, noteworthy generals, for example, in wars that they know that passed away at a certain site. Acts of remembrance. Maybe it's iconic sites. If you think about World War II sites, which are well known, people like to go and are motivated to go and visit these sites, like the Normandy Day beaches, for example, or the Civil War sites in America. Then, of course, some people tend to have that morbid curiosity to look at the things we don't always see, that morbid side. And then, of course, it also forms as a part of a motivation part for honoring the dead. We're going to these sites to pay our honors and our respects to these that have fallen, especially if you look at it from a war perspective. I think the acts of remembrance and, of course, honoring the dead is something that really is high on the motivation list because people tend to go back to honor the fallen heroes from the past. So those are just some of the motivations that stood out for me in my research and are some of the motivations of why do people go to these dark tourism war sites. So if you look at international dark tourism war examples, I've listed just 4 of them there. The previous speaker also highlighted to Auschwitz in Poland, of course, there for all the concentration camps. Then there's the War Remnants Museum in Vietnam that we find. If we look at United States of America, there's of course the Civil War sites, the Gettysburg National Military Park. And then if we go to Europe, there's of course the World War II graves in Normandy that we also find. So just to give you an idea of, or a picture of the world, if you look at the map, we'll see with these dark tourism war examples are stretched throughout the world. It's not just specifically in Europe or in America or in Asia. There's examples throughout the world. And some of these examples are concentration camps, it's museums, it's graveyards, it's memorial sites, battlefields. All of these things are scattered throughout the world. So dark tourism isn't located just in, for example, Europe or in America or in Asia. It's throughout the world. So these are just some of the international dark tourism war examples we find throughout the world. Now, if we look, and before we focus to the South African war, there on the left-hand side, you'll see a map of the world, of course, just to orientate everybody to know where South Africa is. Because I know a lot of the times if we do ask people where's South Africa, sometimes they don't even know it is in Africa. So if you look at the world map there, you'll see at the bottom, in colored in red, highlighted in red there, that is at the southernmost tip of African continent. That is where South Africa is situated. So now that you know where South Africa, of course, is situated, we can talk about the South African War. This war occurred between 1899 and 1902, but it's also referred to as the Anglo-Boer War. So maybe if somebody talks about the Anglo-Boer War, you actually know they're also talking about the South African War. More recently, we've been starting to talk about the South African War. So this war occurred for 3 years between 1899 to 1902 in South Africa. If you look at the map there on your right-hand side of the screen in front of you at the moment, you can see the borders of South Africa there is still the same as it is today. But the difference is there you'll see at the top in orange, there is the Transvaal Republic. And then just below that, there we find the Orange Free State. Now I'm highlighting these two because they were the big participants in the South African War. They were two independent Boer republics during 1899 and 1902 when this war occurred. Among their borders, you'll see there's the Cape Colony we find and Natal Colony. Now, this, of course, was British colonies situated around these two independent Boer republics. So why did this war occur? What happened? What led to this war taking place? Of course, towards the end of the 1880s, 1890s, there was gold discovered in the Transvaal, more specifically in the Witwatersrand, where Johannesburg is situated today. So the discovery of this gold led to a lot of interest, of course, into the Transvaal and to these two independent Boer republics at the heart of South Africa. So as a result of this discovery of the gold and British imperialism at this stage, which was at the high, some of the British troops were situated around these two Boer republics, and they were around their borders. And of course, the Transvaal and the Orange Free State saw this as, hey, we are about to be invaded. Something is happening here that should not be happening. So these two Boer republics, the Transvaal and the Orange Free State, they met up, they got together, and they decided we're going to send an ultimatum to the British and to say to them, listen, if you don't withdraw your troops within 48 hours, we will perceive that as a declaration of war. So the ultimatum was sent to the British, but at the end of the day, the British did not adhere to that ultimatum. And then on 11 October 1899, the South African War officially started. The British said this will be a very, very quick war. They said it we will be done by Christmas. They thought it was going to be a 3-month war. This war turned out to be one of their most costly wars they had in their history. It stretched out for 3 years. And as you'll see as we go through the slides today, it was a very big, big impact that it left on the British and, of course, South Africa as a country. So that's just a little bit of a background to the South African War, what led to this war, why did it happen. And then if we look at some of the impacts, because a lot of this impacts led to tourism sites which we can go and visit today. If we look at the casualties, of course, there's soldiers involved in these wars. There on the Boer side, so that was the Transvaal and the Orange Free State republics. On their side, the casualties was 3,997 soldiers that passed away. On the British side, double that almost is 7,792 soldiers that passed away during these skirmishes and all of these battlefields throughout South Africa. On the women and children side, unfortunately with war, as we know, the women and children in a country, they also are unfortunately the ones that suffer as a result of war. In the South African War, it was no different. On the women and children, there was 285,089 women, children and men that was placed in 114 concentration camps. So that is quite a lot of concentration camps that was put up during the South African War. And as a result of that, 285,089 women and children, 30,327 was at the end of the day deceased and passed away in these concentration camps which they had during the South African War. So that is just some of the casualties to give you a picture. On the women and children side, it was really, really a hard impact for South Africa and the two Boer independent republics at that stage. This war concluded on 31 May 1902, and the conditions of surrender was signed in Melrose House in Pretoria. What was the result of this surrender? The Orange Free State and the Transvaal surrendered to Great Britain and was thus colonized by Great Britain, thereby losing their independence. So as a result of this surrender that was signed, they lost their independence, the two Boer republics, the Transvaal and the Orange Free State. So that's just a little bit about the impact of this war, which it had in South Africa as a country as we know it today, and as you'll see later, the impact it had on some of the world as well. If we look at key South African war dark tourism attractions in South Africa, most of these pictures are from my own personal visits with my wife while we visited these sites. So it's recent pictures of these dark tourism sites. I also see myself as a dark tourist visiting all of these sites. So during the South African War, there was 8,000 blockhouses erected. Unfortunately, I'm speaking under correction, but I think only about 700 of them are still left in South Africa today in 2025. So there needs to be a little bit more action maybe done to preserve these blockhouses going forward, to preserve them as dark tourism attractions. So what were these blockhouses? They were erected to guard the railway lines, because the British, of course, in those days didn't have cars driving up and down. So they used railway lines those days. So these blockhouses were set up to protect the railway lines, because the Boers, they attack these railway lines because they know this is one way we can block the British from getting into our two countries. Then, of course, there's also statues. There's a large amount of statues throughout South Africa that commemorates this war with statues. This one's depicted there in the middle is the Afskeid statue. There you can see the date of when the war started, 11 October 1899. This statue shows where the Boer soldier gets on his horse and he's going to the veld to go to war, saying goodbye to his wife and child at home. So there's many of these beautiful statues stationed throughout South Africa, which is also a key dark tourism attraction. Then, of course, in Bloemfontein, we find the War Museum. I think it's one of the only kinds in the world that commemorates this South African war. And if you do have an opportunity, you must definitely visit that museum. Then, battlefields, as we know, with war comes battlefields. This particular battlefield, which I highlight here on the left, is just one of the many battlefields. It's one that is close to Bloemfontein on the way to Kimberley. It's known as the Driefontein Battle. There you can see the graves of some of the Australian soldiers that passed away. So there you can already hear the international influence of this war. That particular monument was erected in 2019. I had the privilege to be there when they unveiled this monument for the fallen Australian soldiers who passed away at the Battle of Driefontein. On the right-hand side, we have the Horse Memorial in Port Elizabeth, or Gqeberha as it is known today in South Africa. Throughout the war, it isn't just humans that suffered, women and children and the soldiers. There's, of course, animals as well. So this Horse Memorial in Gqeberha in South Africa commemorates all the horses, or the horses that passed away during this war. It's said that approximately 300,000 horses and mules passed away during this war. So that's also something to commemorate, not just the human element, but also the animal element in the impact of war. Then you heard about the concentration camps where the 30,000 women and children passed away. Here's two pictures of two different concentration camps. As you can see, there's all the graves of the women and children that passed away. On the right-hand side, there you'll see one that is in very, very good condition. This is unfortunately not the case for all of the concentration camps, as a lot of them are not in good condition. As you can see, the grass and everything that is not kept up, unfortunately, at these dark tourism attractions. But that's something to work on towards the future. So there you can see there is the graves of the women and children that passed away, small women and children. Some of them are only a day old. And if you go to the War Museum in Bloemfontein, you'll see there's a wall of remembrance that has all the names of these women and children that passed away at all these 114 concentration camps throughout South Africa. Then if we continue, you can see there is also graves of soldiers, of course, soldiers that passed away. These particular graves are of British soldiers, the ones there where you see with the white crosses. That the steel ones, that is the graves of British soldiers. So if you go into a graveyard or a cemetery in South Africa and you see those white crosses, you'll know that is from British soldiers that passed away during the South African War. On the right-hand side, there you'll see is a memorial that is for Canadian soldiers that passed away. So already we saw there's an Australian impact, there's a Canadian influence, there's a British influence in this war in South Africa. So it's got an international impact, as we'll see shortly. Then there in Bloemfontein, we find this British memorial that commemorates all the fallen British soldiers that passed away in Bloemfontein during the South African War. Interesting side fact about this particular cemetery in Bloemfontein is those of you that know the Lord of the Rings movies and the Hobbit movies and the books, the author of Lord of the Rings, J.R. Tolkien, he was born in South Africa in Bloemfontein, and his father is actually buried at this particular graves or this cemetery in Bloemfontein. So that's just an interesting side fact as well about this dark tourism attraction. Then lastly, ladies and gentlemen, in South Africa, dark tourism attractions, we find the National Women's Memorial. It's the only one of its kind in the world, and this one was erected in 1913 to commemorate that 30,000 women and children that passed away. At this Women's Memorial, we also find the graves of the last president of the Orange Free State, President Stenden, and his wife is also there at the foot of this memorial. Then I also included churches. Churches formed a big part of the war as well. They either served as lookout points because of their high towers. So in 1900s, you could have a big view from those towers. So they were used as lookout points. And of course, they served as as hospitals as well for the fallen soldiers and the injured soldiers that was also taken to churches. So churches also played a big role and also formed part of these dark tourism attractions in South Africa. So ladies and gentlemen, that's just examples of some of the dark tourism war attractions we find in South Africa. If we incorporate it and link it to international dark tourism links, you'll see that the women and children were sent to concentration camps, but what about the soldiers, the Boer soldiers? They were of course sent to prisoner of war camps, as you can see illustrated by this map. So where was these prisoner of war camps? We'll see there's one in Bermuda Islands, there's one in St. Helena, we had in South Africa, we had in India, and then of course we also had in Ceylon, which is of course today known as Sri Lanka. So there's a link with Sri Lanka as well, which we'll have a look at now. So this war actually had a big international impact without a lot of people actually realizing it, and it's got dark tourism attractions all over the world. Then here we can see Diatalawa POW camp. This is in Sri Lanka. I had the privilege of visiting this site in 2019. On the left-hand side, you'll see there's a picture of the Boer POW prisoners standing there at this Diatalawa POW camp. And on the right-hand side, it was me there taking that photo during 2019 on a visit to the Diatalawa POW camp. Then, if we look ahead there as well at Diatalawa, you'll see the similarity between that Canadian one I showed you a little bit earlier, that memorial for the fallen Canadian soldiers. This Boer War Memorial is situated at Diatalawa. And of course, this commemorates the POWs that passed away either on their way to the POW camp or at the POW camp in Sri Lanka. On the right-hand side, there you'll also find some of the British prisoner of the South African, the Boer prisoner of wars. They decided not to come back to South Africa. So they stayed behind in Sri Lanka or Ceylon in those days. Then you also find some of these Boer soldiers' graves in Colombo. If you go there to the cemetery, you'll find these graves of the Boer War soldiers, POW prisoners in Colombo. Then if you go to Kandy, there you'll see is a monument of the Ceylon Mounted Infantry. You'll find that in the city of Kandy in Sri Lanka. And on the right-hand side, there's also the name of the Ceylon Mounted Infantry that passed away during the South African War. You can find this is in one of the churches there in Kandy, where the names are commemorated on the church. So again, you can see there the church is linked in some way with the dark tourism examples. So, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end where I asked the question, is there light at the end for dark tourism? I think there is definitely light at the end of dark tourism. We just need to do certain things and we need to highlight certain things. First of all, where you see there the image of let's get to learning. We need to educate ourselves about what is dark tourism. What does it entail? What can we do? What do we need to do? How can we take this from where it is today into the future? And it can also form a part of education to learn from our past mistakes. the South African War and the War Museum in Bloemfontein, they are famous for saying from this war that negotiation is preferable to war. And I think we can learn from that a lot in the past as well. And dark tourism can guide us and educate us to learn from our past mistakes and not to repeat them in the future or the present. Then on the right-hand side, unfortunately, I see it's not blinking there as it's supposed to. That's supposed to say, I love collaboration. And I think collaboration is important. As you saw there with dark tourism, and there's not just dark tourism in South Africa, it's all across the world. And even the dark tourism South African war examples has got links internationally. So we need to collaborate, work together, take hands to take dark tourism into the future. Then that gentleman putting in the files there onto the computer. For heritage, it's important that we start looking at digitalization because a lot of the documents get lost. And if something is lost, we can't retrieve it. So digitalization of dark tourism sites is also very important to create a database, to learn, to use it as education, and of course, promoting. Talking about promoting, there in the middle, that was supposed to show that old, not Bart Simpson's dad there, he's froze away the advanced marketing book. It's an advanced marketing book he's learning there or reading there, and he says you don't have to use advanced marketing. I tend to disagree. When we look at dark tourism and we look at marketing, we need to be very ethical in how we market it and how we go about it. Marketing is one of the key things to make sure that dark tourism has that light at the end of the day. Then, in conclusion, the last one there, you can see that gentleman putting on a big plaster there onto that wall that is breaking. We need to look at conserving our heritage. You heard me talk about the blockhouses, where there's not a lot of them left today. If we still keep going down this road of not preserving our heritage, there isn't going to be dark tourism historical sites that we can use and utilize for tourism and as an add-on niche tourism product for certain destinations. So preservation is also very, very important going forward. So in conclusion, for me, there is light at the end of the dark tourism tunnel. We just need to do certain things and make sure what we do is ethical in the way we do it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. That is my side of the story. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ben, for your great speech, and also that what you have highlighted at the end, that is very interesting because that we know in Sri Lankan context that certain things are different. That actually, when it comes to that, the memorials rather than some kind of a remains and certain sites related with that, the long-lasted war of 30 years, which came to an end in 2009. That some of those sites are highly sensitive because that two ethnic groups, their memories, their loved ones, they died, and that related with some torture as well. That those stories are not nice stories. That the recent tragedies. Then that the basically the at the end of the war, that government's policy was that not to promote dark tourism for international tourists. That is still there is no change, and also that there are certain factors that they think sometimes that especially the promoting the sites related with that the long lasted war, that may be something not suitable because that it may renew some kind of the healed wounds. That kind of perceptions are there as well, but all sites are not like that. It's depend on that what kind of sensitivity, what kind of context that particular site exit. That is very interesting. And rather than that, most of that the other subset of tourism, this is more sensitive in certain context because it's related with the people's death and your loved ones, their memories and other things. Okay, that now I like to open the forum for the audience, and you can use the raise hand option to talk, or that you can type your question, idea in the chat box as well. That we have very important audience from different part of the world. I think that there is a large number of people. Some experts are there as well from South Africa and maybe in Netherlands and also some other countries as well. This is the chance for you. Here's your views, your ideas, your perceptions. All are welcome. Okay, that till someone is oh yes, there's one. Then that there is a question, Dr. Sarike, that the how we can use to my understanding, I'm telling you that the use of VR in dark tourism. Do you have any experience about that?
Yeah, no, no, yes, no. I don't have experience in it, but I have read about it. And VR in tourism in general is really going to it's playing a huge role, especially because I deal with projects. I am involved in projects that deal with Gen Z, our current students actually, and a lot of research shows that for any type of tourism, VR and AR is really something that they would not just prefer, but they would expect sites to have there to immerse them. That they'd like to be immersed in any tourist experience, and VR is really playing a huge role in that. For dark tourism in particular, because you already mentioned it, is because it's very sensitive. It is really also about getting an emotional experience aside, grasping what has happened there. You also want to, people in general want to be touched by it. They want to feel what has happened too. And they also like to experience the authenticity of a site or an event. And VR is making that either possible or difficult, because if you were to provide a tourist experience of a dark tourism event through VR glasses, for example, as a visitor, you might be able to experience it firsthand as if you're there. So it might actually be a more authentic experience as when you go to the site, because not only do you have the feeling that you're there and see and feel what happened or learn about the stories, you're also having the feeling that you're there maybe at the same time. So maybe VR actually enables even a more authentic experience and an immersive experience than when you would travel to go physically. And at the same time, I also believe that VR might be hampering maybe as well, because maybe it also depends on taste or whether what you prefer or not. But VR might also be an issue for tourist managers, dark tourism managers, when they provide an experience, because people are not really connected to the site physically. You can just, for example, you can just experience it at home, and then although you have the feeling of a perceived authentic experience, and you can still learn about that site and about the story and the event that happened, you're not actually there. And that is, in my research, what is coming back. That is what we want. We want to experience an authentic site attraction or story. So I'm not sure, to be honest. VR is one of the trends that I mentioned in my slides that might be shaping a new destination, but I'm not quite sure in terms of the visitor experience how that would look like, if that will be enough from the visitor's point of view, basically.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sarike. That is, the question is from that the Professor Winter. Dr. Eben, can you add something that he is asking, that your idea about use of VR in dark tourism?
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Venter, for that. I think it goes back to what I said about education and in the digitalization of our heritage. I think if we go into the VR route, I think we can use that as a form of education for people that aren't always able to access all of these sites. So somebody that would, for example, like to go to India or to St. Helena, one of the POW camps, but can't physically get there. I think for VR can be used in a sense to use it as education as well, to show this is what it is like there for those people that are not able to go there. And it can also serve as a form of marketing, I think. It can also entice people to go there after they've experienced the VR. Now they'll be like, okay, now I actually want to go to St. Helena. Let's go to Sri Lanka and experience this physically for ourselves. So I think it can go education and marketing. I definitely think VR can play a big role in that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Eben. That there is another question. How can we look after that block houses? I'm not sure that whether you spoke about the block houses, Dr. Eben, that is in South Africa. That I don't know whether there are block houses or that kind of things in Netherlands or that areas you have done research, Dr. Sarike. No. Okay,
No,
that I
I
don't
think
know as well, that we don't have block houses. That is up to you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the question in regards to the blockhouses. I think it's very important that we preserve them. And how can we do that is we need to get the local people involved in this, the people that are in the area, because a lot of these times, these blockhouses are situated on people's private properties. So I think a big role is for local people also to get involved in this and take ownership of those blockhouses, and also to look at heritage organizations that can maybe provide guidance in this and how can we do it. Some of these blockhouses are national monuments as well, declared national monuments. So we can't just go there and start building and on them and start adding on to them. We must make sure that we follow the correct paths as well, with regards to laws and regulations of these blockhouses. But I think it starts with the local community that identifies a blockhouse that is not in a good condition, and then start bringing this under the correct people's attention to showcase, hey, there is a problem or there's an issue of a blockhouse, it's not in a good condition. Then looking at what can be the next step. Maybe it might be to collect funds to reinstate or to reestablish this blockhouse in a previous condition. But I think that is important. It starts on the ground with people identifying issues, bringing it under people's attention, then looking at how can we take it further. What's the next step? Like I say, a lot of times, a lot of people think we can just go and fix this on ourselves, and then it's a national monument. That is unfortunately not allowed according to a lot of rules and regulations. So I think that could be how we can look after these blockhouses, starting on the ground.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Eben. Are there any other questions? Anyone can talk, your views, your ideas, or anything. You can share with the audience. No issue. Yes, Dr. Sarike, that there is a question. Is going to haunted houses and or places also considered as dark tourism?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
What is funny, I was thinking about this earlier, is that yes, the short answer is yes. But when I started to do research in dark tourism, that was 2007. And I remember then that many people who I interviewed, it was also a museum and a haunted house. They weren't really keen on being associated, to dark tourism or dark heritage, because they thought it wasn't really working for them in terms of marketing, in terms of tourism attractions. But that really has changed now. Now, haunted houses, for example, sell themselves as being a dark tourist experience. Come over and see, see. So it's really a change in mindset as well from the tourist supply sector. Do you say that sector domain as well, in how they brand themselves as a dark tourist activity or dark tourism site? And a haunted house is definitely one of them. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, thank you,
yeah.
Dr. Sarike. And also that the another thing is the other same thing maybe we why different people in different ways. That the same experience people may get in different ways. That is the we know that the same site the people are visiting for different purposes. That is not the site's elements, but also that the important thing is what is the motivation and the behaviors of the tourists. Sometimes when we are defining the tourists, whether they are dark tourists or other category, that is there as well. That is my idea. And Dr. Eben, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that answer covered it. Thanks.
Okay, is there any other questions? Yes, if you have any questions, please. Okay, now that there are no more questions, and uh, we had a very important discussion and also that very insightful presentations, two presentations from Dr. Sarike and Dr. Eben. That's a very good presentations, and you covered that the different avenues of dark tourism, and also that the future of the dark tourism as well. That is kind of the thing which is may different for the different people. That is related with that people's feelings rather than the most of the other tourism products. That's very sensitive, and also that there may be sometimes different meanings in different cultures as well. That how they see the dead people, and also that their cultural values as well. And and now we are going to the conclude the session. Before conclude the session, that the I would like to invite all of you to the switch on your video cameras and pose for a group photograph. Yes, please switch on your video cameras of your mobile device, of your the computer, and it's nice. Have a nice smile.
I think you are muted. Amila? I think you are muted. We can't hear you. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry that thank you so much, Dr. Sarike, and also that Dr. Eben, for your wonderful speeches, and those are highly insightful, and also that those who broadened our knowledge and understanding on the dark tourism, and also that we have the very important audience, some professors and some others from the different parts of the world, and we have the people from South Africa and Netherlands, and also from other countries, from Sri Lanka as well. And thank you so much for being with us at the UCR Global Leisure Webinar Series. And also that we hope to meet you again at the next webinar of this webinar series. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.